Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another interview on how can we prepare for a Ramadan that is like no other. Today, I have with us Wan Sofia Wan Mahmood. She's the EVP of HR Strategy and Plan of Affin Hwang Capital. Although she will be sharing with us, what she will be sharing with us is actually her own view rather than representing any authority. So, Wan Sofia, thank you so much for coming on board and getting beautifully dressed up to share with us how you are preparing for Ramadan and what are the thoughts. So, before we jump into that, may I invite you to just share with us a little bit about how has the MCO been for you personally as well as for the organization? Maybe you can start with sharing that with us.
Sure. Hi, Janet. Yeah, okay. I would have to say that it has not been easy because Affin Hwang was one of the first few organizations that actually started work from home even before the lockdown. So it was, I think, at the initial stage, it was a bit of a disorder and chaos where, your routine get totally disrupted. So getting people to be aligned on remote working and be familiar with the digital tool has been a huge challenge initially, but I think everybody is quite familiar with the remote working and all the digital tools. And I think one of the important thing that I realize is if you set the habits and the pattern fast, then or rather not allow people to set their own routine and pattern, then people get on board much easier. And I think this will be the new norm. Yeah,
It is
even at Affin
definitely going
Hwang,
to be the new norm.
yeah, even at Affin Hwang, we're looking at even post-COVID, post-MCO, we're looking at flexi work arrangement, which is working from home on some days of the month or the week.
I think you're blessed, or rather, it's wonderful that you guys had the foresight to start planning for this digitization. Even from the last, I remember when you were going through your key drivers coaching program a couple of years ago, you had already conceptualized what to do and obtained approval for it. So I think now it's a blessing that now your plans are actually being accelerated and everyone just has to get on with it.
I'm a happy camper.
Sure, you must be.
Yeah.
In happier times, there may be resistance, but I think now people realize that this is really the way to go.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
It's great to hear that you're also looking at post-MCO. Some of you may actually continue working from home or have this kind of a flexible arrangement. And I think, as society progresses, this is the kind of work-life integration that a lot of us are going to cherish very much. So maybe now let's move on to the topic of Ramadan. As a non-Muslim, what we do every year is that we go into this mode of, okay, what do we need to do? We need to have different practices. Don't bring our drinks into a meeting. Don't eat in front of our guests, our Muslim colleagues. When we go for lunch, do it very discreetly. Don't tap our food back into the office and let the whole place be filled with the smell of food. So there are all these things that we try and do, but I think now more than ever, we need to be sensitive, and working remotely, we tend to be very separated from each other. So really the purpose of having these interviews is to hear from different people with different backgrounds, different personal values and belief systems, and try and have a better understanding of how to prepare for Ramadan. So, Sophia, would you please share what are your own personal views and principles, and how would you like your non-Muslim colleagues to support you?
Okay. I would qualify first that these are my personal views. Okay, I want to. I think you follow Simon Sinek. I noticed that from your Facebook and from some of your postings. I'm a great fan of Simon Sinek too. So I'll start with why. Why are we fasting? Why do Muslims fast? It is actually to seek the higher spiritual attainment by doing more ibadah during the holy month. Ibadah is the act of fasting. Yeah. But in Islam, doing our worldly obligation, which is actually work, taking care of the family, is also considered as ibadah. Yeah. So if we neglect or put less importance to the worldly part because we are fasting, then I believe we're not embodying the tenets of fasting or Ramadan. Because fasting is about endurance and discipline, and enduring the discipline and hardship in the journey does not dismiss one or rather dismiss the duties of Muslim to honor everyday work and family commitment. I believe that there should not be any exception. The only exception that I feel people can be compassionate about is the first few days of Ramadan. Your body is adapting to the no food, no drinks. So yeah, but other than that, uh, I don't see any reason to separate or to put special treatment to people who are fasting. Yeah.
Okay. That reminds me of my trainer, Shanas, you know, Shanas Karim.
Yeah.
He always used to assure us that it's no problem running trainings during Ramadan. We need to continue life as usual. We need to continue working as usual. So,
Precisely.
great. Nice to hear that from you as well. So, well, can I ask you if it's on mentioned about the first few days to take it a bit easy while the body is adjusting.
Yeah.
What would be certain rituals or practices that you would recommend that can support the teams to still stay together and on track with productivity for, let's say, the first 1 week of Ramadan?
Um, okay, for Muslims, normally taking the wudu, I think it's really, really very good because it refreshes the body when when you get freshened up with water. Yeah, yeah, where you clean yourself before you go for prayers. Yeah. So I find that, this is my personal views. I find that when I take the wudu, it really freshens me up.
Mm. And do you do this only before prayers or, let's say, after every 5 times a day? So, and that really helps?
You can actually do that at any point of time.
I see.
Taking the wudu, yeah.
So it's a really great way to refresh, especially in the afternoon when it gets really hot.
Yeah.
Mm. And now that many people are working from home and homes may not have air conditioning, I think this is something that we can all benefit from.
Yeah. That's a huge challenge. My house does aircon, but it's not it's not a centralized aircon. And where I normally work, there's no
Mm.
aircon. So and the weather is extremely hot these days. Yeah, so I can imagine how it's going to be like during Ramadan.
So moving on, what would you like to say to managers of teams or even business leaders? How do we get through this whole MCO together and prepare for transitioning back to work?
Okay, I think how employers treat their staff during this pandemic define their EVP for years ahead. EVP, employee value proposition,
Mhm.
is the employer branding. So if how do you treat, or how do you rush in when an employee gets sick and put that as a priority. I think these are the company that will be remembered for a very, very long time.
Mm.
Be compassionate, be transparent, be fair, listen. It doesn't take much to do all this.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Your next question is, how do we transition post COVID? Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think this will nothing will be normal again. Um, how we look at the working arrangement, how we look at technology will totally change.
Mm-hmm. I think people will be a lot more tech savvy after this.
Yeah,
I think many
precisely.
people are going through a very steep learning curve during the
That's
past few
right.
weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing your views, Sophia. So let me just do a quick recap of the points that you've covered. So what you're saying, and please do jump in and add in or correct me if I've got it wrong. First of all, is set the routine for your people so that they know what to expect. And I think this is important. It's like setting the context for the team. And work is part of ibadah, so we should not neglect work during Ramadan. It is part of what you're meant to do anyway. And I know what I missed out is the cleaning yourself before prayers. Do that as a
The
way to
evolution. Yeah.
ablutions. Okay, let me add that in shortly. And also how employers treat their staff during this time. That is really walking the talk. So whatever core values that the organization has is just words on paper until you start to demonstrate it in a time of crisis. And there's no better time than now.
Yeah. Precisely.
Okay. So just to wrap up, I think what I'm hearing from you is that different people would have different practices or different beliefs. So as a non-Muslim, we should not judge or assume that everyone is going to be observing Ramadan the same way. And I think this is maybe the message to be taken out, that we should be sensitive and ask without judgment to see how each and every individual would like to be supported. And different people just have their different preferences and different ways of observing it. Would that be a fair summary?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so any last words that you'd like to share with managers of teams who are all going through this together?
Stay safe. Stay at home. Social distancing. Yeah.
Yes, I really hope that MCO will be lifted in time for Raya so that everyone may have a wonderful celebration, reuniting with their closest, their nearest and dearest.
Yeah.
Until then, thank you so much, Sophia, for joining me today. Thank you so much for sharing honestly your views. And that's what I've always appreciated about you. You're always honest and true to yourself. Thank you.
Janet. Yeah.
Have a blessed Ramadan and have a wonderful Raya. I do hope to be in touch with you before then.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay. You too.